Now once you've sat down on your drum set, the first thing you'll want to do is make sure your legs are in the right places. The leg on the side of your dominant hand should be on the bass drum pedal, like mine is right here, and the bass drum pedal should be touching the bass drum. If it feels like it's too hard to press, try to find a video online to loosen it, otherwise you'll get used to it. For your other leg, the leg on the side of your non-dominant hand, it should be on the hi-hat pedal, and this shouldn't be hard to push down at all, because most of the time, more often than not, the hi-hat pedal is all the way down. It should be pressed down like this, and when you hit it with your drumstick, the tip of your drumstick, the sound should be a little something like this. Not like that, and not like that. Once you've got that down, make sure you're holding the drumsticks like we learned last lesson, fingers and thumbs, and the rest of them all around. Once you've got that down, we're gonna go through the basic stance. Now, when you sit on a drum set, you have to be ready to play whenever. So, what you're gonna wanna do is take your non-dominant hand and put it above the snare, like so. And now take your dominant hand and put it over it, sort of like a cross and an X. There should be an X in front of you. And you should sort of be looking at the snare. And it should look a little something like this. Your dominant hand should be ready to hit the hi-hat, and your non-dominant hand should be ready to hit the snare. Now, we're gonna go through how to play a basic beat on the drums. Before we get started, let me show you what that looks like. Now, when you look at that, don't think of it as 4 separate movements. Don't think this as one movement. Don't think of it as this is the second movement. Don't think of it as this is the third movement. And don't think of it as this is the 4th movement. What you really want to do is break it down into 3 separate constant movements. Now, what I'm doing here is, on one side of my mind, I'm doing this. The other, I'm doing this. And on the other side of my mind, I'm doing this. And all together, it gives you that beat. Now, don't try to jump to anything. First, make sure you're comfortable hitting the drums. So what you're gonna wanna do is, like what you did with the practice pad last lesson, try to do the same thing on the hi-hat with one hand. Try to do it a little something like this. Now when you're doing this, you're gonna wanna count to yourself. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 2 and 4 and. If that's too fast for you to start off, slow it down. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause the video and work your way up. Now, once you've got that down, start getting the bass drum in on every first count of every 4. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And make sure you're counting, because if you lose your tempo, if you start going too slow, too fast, when you practice with a real song, it's not gonna work. Now, up until now, you should be getting the hang of it. If not, don't worry. This is perfectly normal. Just pause the video and try to keep on practicing. Go back a few steps if you have to, but keep on practicing. Now, this is the hard part, because now you're involving 2 hands. So, first make sure that you can hit the hi-hat and the snare at the same time. A little something like this. Now, if it's like, or don't worry about it, but just make sure you can hit both the hi-hat and the snare at the same time, and it sounds like one sound rather than 2 disjoint sounds. Now, as you go along, try to do this. And Once you feel very comfortable with that, go ahead and do this. At any point through any of those steps, pause the video, make sure you can do it, make sure you can do it for at least a minute straight, and then come back. Now, using everything you've learned, put it all together, start slow if you have to, and try out your basic 4-beat rhythm.